Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Shea Bruce.
All right, help if I unmuted myself to start. We're off to a rocking start here.
There we go.
But the Reds are off to a much better start. Hey, welcome. Welcome to Chatterbox Reds, where we are here, myself and Shea, Neal, talking about the Cincinnati Reds, who just won a series against the mighty New York Mets. Shea, how we feeling today, buddy?
Feel good. It was a good win. The bullpen pitched well, all 9 innings for the most, pretty much. And some timely hitting. Fraley had a nice knock, as did Kevin Newman. So good performance by the Reds. Good to take 2 out of 3 from a team with the talent of the Mets.
Yeah, what a win, what a series. Just good times for the Reds. All right, let's start off. Break down what happened in today. See a lot of people in the chat. Appreciate all of you. As always, we'll get to some questions. I had a really good question from Sir Boy that we'll go through here in a minute. But here's what went down today. Top of the first. This was a bullpen day for the Cincinnati Reds. Derek Law got the start, and he mowed the mighty Mets down 1, 2, 3 in order in the top of the first. Then in the bottom of the first, Jonathan India had a leadoff double. Then with 2 outs, Jake Fraley and Tyler Stevenson, each with weak singles to put the Reds up 1-0. That's when it was starting to feel like, hey, it just might be the Reds' day. Then Nick Senzel kept on doing what he's doing. He crushed a double. That made it 2-0. Henry Ramos, he had a really good plate appearance. He drew a walk. And then Kevin Newman, the thorn in the side of Reds Twitter, had a big 2-out single, sneaking it past the diving shortstop Francisco Lindor to make it 4-0 Reds. And I tell you what, after that, Senga really settled in. It really felt like kind of one of those games where you needed to get to the pitcher earlier, and you were. He was pretty much dominant after that outside of Spencer Steer. He hit a no-doubter 427-foot solo home run. That put the Reds up 5-0. And that was all they would need with their bullpen, more than they would need. Derek Law, inning in a third scoreless. Ben Lively, 3 scoreless, 0 walks. Lucas Sims, he came in versus the top of the order in the 5th inning. Reds were up 4-0 at the time. He pitched an inning in 2/3 scoreless. And then Kevin Herget, he got a really great play in this game, big moment in the game. He was the benefit of an incredible throw from Henry Ramos, throwing out a runner at the plate. Really nice tag by Kurt Casale. That ended the inning, kept the Reds up 5-0. And I know they mentioned this on the broadcast, but it kind of felt like that, like, deflating play for the Mets that just really wrapped this one up. Kevin Herget, 3 scoreless innings. He preserved a 5-0 win. Ben Lively got the win. Herget got the save. Your Cincinnati Reds take 2 of 3 from the New York Mets. Shea, overall thoughts on this one today?
I'm just waiting for David Bell to announce Ben Lively as the 2024 opening day starter. No, for real. It was good. Good performance. Derek Law did what he needed to do, made sure they got off to a strong start. Lively got outs, got out of a couple jams. Lucas Sims came in, got some big strikeouts in the middle innings, and then Kevin Herget did what he needed to do to finish this one off. So good pitching performance, and good to pounce on Kodai Senga early. A couple fortunate bloop hits, but at the same time, some hard hit balls as well. Spencer Steer hit the home run, and then a couple other hits in there as well. Nick Senzel had an RBI double in the first inning, so worked out pretty well. They did a good job getting some runs early in this one and then holding on to the lead.
Yeah, Brian in the chat had one of the topics. What do you think about this opener type situation, especially if you're going to use a guy like a Ben Lively?
If a guy like a Ben Lively is your 5 starter in the rotation, I think this is probably the best way to be effective with a guy like that. in that kind of role where I think you'd use a guy like a Derek Law or like, if it's a lefty heavy order at the top, maybe use Alex Young for an inning or two at the start. Just kind of get it going. And then you bring in a guy like Lively that can give you 3-4 innings. Maybe they work him up to 5, but it's something that the Rays did a couple years ago. I'm not saying that the Reds are going to be the Rays. I mean, that'd be great, but the Rays did that a couple years ago. I know they do it with Jalen Beeks. They used to do it with Julian Fleming as well, where they bring in a guy they even did it with Yanni Chirinos. They bring in a guy for 2 innings, and then they'd have that bulk guy pitch 5 or 6 out of the bullpen. And I think it really helps those kind of younger, inexperienced arms that maybe don't have as good a stuff as somebody like a Hunter Green or a Nick Lodolo.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% support it. I think they probably should have done it with Sessa. I think it would have made a lot of sense. You just use whoever your freshest of your top arms is to start off the game, and probably a guy that you also feel like is comfortable in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not Alexis Diaz, maybe not Lucas Sims, but Derek Lull, Buck Farmer, those guys pitch for pitch are probably better options than a guy like Ben Lively. And if they're fresh, you can put them up against the top of the order, set yourself up for some success. I would love a guy like Alex Young.
I'm sorry, Nick. I tried to keep it together, man.
We'll cut that out of the podcast. You better believe that. Oh boy. Yeah, no Trace, and this is what happens. All right.
Yep. Man. I don't know if Ben Lively was that good.
All right, Trace will be back on tomorrow, we believe, and get this thing back running on the tracks. All right, let's run through the pitching. Ben Lively, I tell you, the most impressive thing from him today was just that he didn't walk anyone. He really attacked these hitters. He gave up a lot of hard hit contact, and certainly had some good fortune go his way. But it's just nice to see a guy like that coming up from AAA. Just throwing strikes and attacking these hitters today.
And with a guy like that, I mean, if he's going to lose a game, Nick, I would rather him lose because he just got hit hard. He got hit around rather than, trying to make the perfect pitch and walking guys and hitting guys and putting guys on base that you really didn't need to put on base. If you're Hunter Green, maybe you can get away with trying to throw the perfect fastball on the outside corner. If you're Ben Lively, just throw strikes. If they hit it, they hit it. If they don't, you're going to get deep into a game. And I like how aggressive he was today. A couple Mets hit the ball hard, but at the end of the day, you got to trust your defense to back you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan India, man, how good has he been of late? Led this game off with a double, had another hit in this game. OPS now up to 863, hitting 311 on the season. Jonathan India just continues to play well every single night of late.
Yeah, and 12 doubles. He hit his 12th double of the year today. I don't, off the top of my head, know who's leading the league in doubles, but I feel like 12's got to be near the top. They've only played 37 games now on the year, so he's hitting a double about every 3 games, and this is just the Jonathan India that, the Reds would love to have in that leadoff spot. Is he only going to hit 15 home runs a year? Probably. Maybe 20 if you're lucky, but he's going to hit a lot of doubles. He's going to get on base at a high rate. He's going to probably settle in around somewhere between 280 and 300. I don't know if he'll stay above 300 all year, but I don't see him dipping below 280, 285, somewhere around there. He's just a guy that finds ways to get on base, find a way to get hits, and he's clutch, Nick. It feels like whenever the Reds need a clutch knock, Jonathan India is one of the main guys that gets that done.
Yeah, OJ Bronco brought up TJ Friedel. I had a note here. He did leave the game holding his side. I don't know how it looked. You didn't really see anything in real time. I know Jim Day reported that he went straight to the locker room. Honestly, these things are a little more concerning to me than a guy that gets hurt on the field, sliding into something or whatnot that's just shaken up, because there wasn't any sort of like injury. It looked like it was just on his swing. You got any insight in it? I don't think it doesn't feel good. I hope it's nothing. I don't want to speculate too much, but when a guy leaves the game kind of on his own like that is a little concerning.
Right. You don't want to speculate. And I really don't know if it's, oblique or if it's shoulder or if it's whatever it could be. All I know is that, like you said, on those injuries where you pull something or you tweak something on a swing, it's really hard to kind of game plan how long that's going to take. It could end up being a couple days and he feels good. It could end up being a month or two. There's really no way to know. Really, the only way they're going to be able to know is when TJ Friedel says he feels good. And whether that's, Saturday or mid-June, we won't know.
Yeah. Where does the bullpen rank coming into today? The Reds bullpen ranked 13th with a 3.69 ERA. In a stat I like to use, wins above replacement, which kind of shows like their overall value based on their innings pitched. They were 4th in Major League Baseball at 2.1. Today they're going to get a really nice bonus in all of those statistics because what did they 8 2/3? No, 7 2/3. Math is hard. 7 2/3 scoreless today is gonna help that ERA. That's not factored into those numbers. So yeah, I mean the bullpen, man, there's just been guy after guy this year that's pitched well. And outside of River San Martin, he's really kind of been the only guy that's been disappointing. He's on the IL right now. Shea, I mean, there's just so many nice pieces right now. I don't want to make too much out of it because, relievers are volatile and we could, look up and have 2 really bad weeks and things feel a lot different. But the last couple years, even in 2021, when the Reds won 83 games, the bullpen was a glaring issue, and it's been anything but that so far this season.
Yeah, no, and you said it. I think maybe I'm trained as a Reds fan from years past to just be naturally uncomfortable with a bullpen because you're right. They have strong numbers across the board for the most part. And I still go into every night, and when David Bell pulls the starter, I'm like, oh, boy. So I think that's just, the long-term effects of being a Reds fan and not used to having kind of a solid bullpen, which is what they've had so far this year. But you're right that I'm not really looking too much into it. It's a great start, but, being a relief pitcher is one of the hardest jobs in baseball because you go out and you have a bad 4-game series or a bad week, and all of a sudden it goes from 13th down to 23rd. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're back to a below average bullpen. So guys are off to a good start. It's obviously a big help that Lucas Sims is back, but hopefully they can keep it going. They're playing a Marlins team this weekend that is hitting the ball a little bit better than I think most people thought they would.
Yeah, 19-19 right now are the Marlins. We'll get to them here in a minute. Obviously, we don't want to speculate. Hopefully it's nothing for TJ Friedel. Hopefully the Reds have erred on the side of caution with a lot of these things, more so than I don't know, more so than other teams, but it just definitely feels like they very much erred on the side of caution, as they should, especially in a season like this. Fred M in the chat, Benson should replace Friedel. Mr. Foster also in on that. I don't know if I would replace Benson right now, just because I'd want him to really have a long run of success at AAA before I call him up. I think a guy we talked about yesterday, Shea, TJ Hopkins, would make sense if they're not going to dig into the McLean CES, which we're going to get to here in a minute with a really good article in The Athletic. Any other thoughts on today's game? I mean, obviously just a great day from the bullpen. Nick Senzel, Jake Fraley, nice to see him get 2 hits. Nice to see Tyler Stevenson get 2 hits. Just a lovely day. And how about the Reds just taking a series from the Mets? This team's playing pretty good baseball right now. Reds are 16-21, and that was after they were down in the dumps there with that was a 7-game losing streak. I don't know. I forget about it. I want to forget about it. So I don't know. Just overall, Shea, man, I think this team's playing pretty good baseball right now.
Yeah, and it was nice to have a game where you really didn't feel too stressed out. They scored 4 in the first inning. They were pitching well all day. It was nice to not, after a 7-6 win where they barely held on to that game, and then 2-1 loss where they were down a run the whole game. It was nice to just kind of, take a deep breath today. And I think, but like going back to what you said, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I love Will Benson's tools. I love the raw power. I love the speed. I love the potential on defense. I'd be worried that if they brought him back up and he struggled, that might be a mental block he just kind of doesn't come back from. If you go to the majors twice in 2 months and you just don't figure it out twice in 2 months, that's the kind of thing that lingers with a guy. So I'd like to keep him in AAA a little longer, make sure he's really seeing the ball, hitting it hard. He's had a great month of May, but I'd rather bring him up more towards July when he's had a couple extended months of really seeing the ball well and he can maybe help out in the second half.
100%. And that narrative, if he comes back up and struggles, well, he can only hit AAA pitching. It just becomes more and more pronounced. So yeah, you don't want to see that. But hopefully, TJ Friedel and his lovely 819 OPS aren't out, and the Reds were just being very precautionary today. We don't want to speculate too much on that, especially if things we have no idea on. Let's get to this Athletic article because I don't know. I found this really fascinating today from our guy C. Trent Rosecrans, who we've had on Chatterbox Reds, supported our show very well. We really appreciate him. So go read the article. I'm not going to give you too much because I don't want to be the guy that's giving out free information from really quality journalism. But to kind of sum it up, David Bell's not begging for players. Basically said he trusts the process the Reds are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Kroll is really excited about the talent, but said the timing has to be right. Mentioned the performances are coming against other minor league players, not the caliber of players that they'll face in the big leagues. And basically just summed it up. They're looking at each guy as an individual person, and each person has to improve on different things. Sometimes it's defense, offense, sometimes it's approach, sometimes it's using the whole field, sometimes it's pitch picks, sometimes it's certain pitches. There's a lot of things you look for in each guy, but each guy's got to hit their mark. So they're not, he didn't say what their marks are, but they have certain marks that they need each player to hit before they're going to call them up. And it kind of got me thinking, before Shea, I get to your thoughts on this. And you look at Matt McLain, he has 5 errors at shortstop right now. That might be a specific goal and target that they want him to hit is we want to see an improved defense out of him. CES, it may be we want to see more walks or something. It could be anything. We don't know what it is. But they have that plan. They're sticking to it. People can hate it, but it was nice to see comments from Nick Kroll on this because we were just really kind of speculating on what exactly it was. It was nice to see, I guess, pen to paper on this with exactly what their thought process is here.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit on what we touched on yesterday with Matt McLain and the fact that, Andrew Abbott. When they call these guys up, when they call up Ellie De La Cruz, when they call up Matt McLain, when they call up Christian Encarnacion Strand, the goal is to never send them back down, Nick. Just look at what's happening with the division rival. Jordan Walker is the number 2 prospect in all of baseball. He struggled mightily at the major league level, and they had to send him back down to AAA. The Reds are trying to make sure they don't get caught in that same boat where they call up Ellie too early, and Ellie all of a sudden is hitting 170 in the major leagues, and then you send him down, and it's like, well, is the number 1 prospect in the Reds system even, all that we thought he would be? I think they're just making sure that these guys, I think a big part of it, like you hinted at, Ellie's still striking out in 31% of his at-bats. That can go down a little bit. Christian Encarnacion Strand, as good as he's hitting the ball, he's drawn 1 walk this year. He can work on, getting on base in other ways that isn't just hitting the ball, even though hitting the ball is a great start. And Matt McLain, it seems like the most logical spot for Matt McLain, unless Ellie changes that, is at shortstop, at least at the start. So you have to make sure the Reds in middle infield defense this year, -10 defensive runs saved, one of the worst in baseball. If you're going to call up one of your top prospects to play shortstop, he's got to be able to play shortstop.
And he's paired with the guy that for as great as he is at the plate and how much we overall really love him, and Jonathan India is not a good defensive second baseman. So you have a lot of young pitchers. There could be some concerns that the Reds have with catching the ball behind them. Let's talk about Kevin Newman because I promised people we would, and then he goes out and rips a base hit. I mean, obviously that doesn't make it the right or wrong decision, but as soon as I saw Senga throw that is it the slider that he throws? As soon as I saw
that's the fork ball.
The fork ball. As soon as I saw that first one, I was like, that's why Jose Barrero is not playing today. I was like, all right, that's why they're not. They're sitting him today. They're like, we don't want this guy to have a brutal 0-for-3 game. And it does seem like they're picking their spots for Barrero. I at some point, I get that. I don't really love that line of thinking myself because like at some point he's just got to, I get occasionally, but I don't know. I'm with most people. Like if Jose Barrero is going to be on this roster, he needs to be playing more. I don't mind them giving him a longer run and leaving McLain down, but if you're going to make that, I think you got to commit a little bit more to Barrero.
Well, and my first, I agree with you. My first thought was I felt like they brought in Kevin Newman as kind of that emergency backup plan in case Barrero didn't get any better. But I think what we've seen from Barrero this year, it's still not, major league, everyday major league shortstop good, but I think it's drastically better than it was last year. He's striking out less. He's walking more. He's hit the ball hard and just gotten unlucky sometimes. And he's really not been playing every day consistently. Obviously, the defense has had some spurts of not being all that great, but I think at the end of the day, we know what Kevin Newman is. Kevin Newman's not going to get any better. This is Kevin Newman. Jose Barrero still has a chance to grow as a hitter, grow as a defender. He's only 24 years old. I think, at the end of the day, even if Jose Barrero is not a starter for this Reds team moving forward, he's still a better utility player and a better backup shortstop than Kevin Newman.
And cheaper.
And cheaper.
I mean, if we're being real about this, if you're trying to fill out a roster, you could be, good value at league minimum for a couple of years at worst. I think there might be a disconnect here between David Bell and the front office. And I don't want to make this out to be some big, there's some big ruffling between, the manager and the front office. Mm-hmm. I do know in the past that I know a lot of people like to think that the front office makes the lineup cards and makes every single decision, and David Bell is just a robot. I do know that there is some leeway there. I know from a conversation in the past, when Jim Riggleman was the manager, there was a certain player that kept playing that everyone was like, why is this guy playing? And I know for a fact that the front office did not agree with that, but they give the managers a little bit of leeway in terms of micromanaging. So could be a situation where David Bell's also trying to get some wins. I don't know, but it might be a good time for the front office to kind of put the hammer down and say, play Jose. Well, and
at this point, Nick, Kevin Newman can have the best second half. He could be a top 10 shortstop in the league the rest of the season. Kevin Newman has to win MVP to be brought back to the Cincinnati Reds next year. Jose Barrero, if he plays the rest of the year and he's an average player, even a little bit below average player, he has a solid chance of it, at the very least, being a utility player on this team.
Yeah. I think in fairness to David Bell, I don't view this season as a season where we're doing every single thing to win every single night, which I know a lot of people hate that thinking. But if that is your thinking and you're with that, Kevin Newman probably was the better option today, just given, saying his stuff and the way that he throws. He probably was the better option for just today. Yes. And I think that's why David went with that. I'm against that line of thinking because I'm more about of a development season, but I think that's probably what happened today.
Right. Well, and I see both sides of it. I think that you're absolutely on to something with Kodai Senga's strikeout stuff with that slider and that forkball and even elevating a fastball 95, 96. It probably made more sense to play Kevin Newman, a guy that puts the ball in play a little bit more today. But I'm with you in the line of thinking that the Reds payroll is very, very minuscule after this season. They can go out and sign free agents. They have a lot of top prospects that are either already young Reds or will be young Reds in the next 6 months. And you have to know what positions you need to go, improve at in free agency. And right now you have McClain, you have Ellie De La Cruz, but if you don't need to waste money in free agency by bringing in a bench player because Jose Barrero is a serviceable utility guy, you need to know that now. So right now, in a season where I don't think the Reds are making the playoffs, I think best case scenario, they probably finish 500. They need to play Barrero every single day, or, with the exception 5 days a week, maybe 1 day off, and see what they have with this guy. See if at the end of the year, do we have a guy that can be a part of the 26-man roster of a solid baseball team, or is it a guy that we just need to trade or DFA and move on from?
Yeah. And a good question here from Dougie. He talks about Newman trying to increase his trade value. I'm just not sure he could increase or decrease his trade value if he plays more. I think people know what Kevin Newman is. I think they know they're getting a guy that's probably a solid shortstop, a guy that's not going to embarrass you, a guy that could probably put the ball in play. And so I don't know if really playing him or not playing him really does a whole lot. Will Myers, on the other hand, I think playing him does do a whole lot. I think he can actually increase his trade value right a bit. Mm-hmm. Just not so sure about what Newman can really do in terms of increasing or decreasing. We got another good question. This was earlier today from our guy Sir Boy. We talk about a lot of these analytical stats, but not everyone knows what they are. So I appreciate Sir Boy's question, asking to explain what weighted runs created plus is. And This is a stat that I like to use a lot. I try to use OPS more just because I think a lot of people understand it better. I prefer weighted runs created plus to just OPS. But at the end of the day, OPS and weighted runs created plus are kind of similar in what they're overall trying to accomplish. I just think weighted runs created plus is a better way of doing it. So weighted runs created plus and OPS plus, you probably heard those terms. They're very similar stats. Both of them, if a number is 100, that means they are exactly average. So if I say Jose Barrero has a 100 weighted runs created plus, that means he has been an average hitter, as average as you can get in baseball. If Jose Barrero had a 125 weighted runs created plus, that means he's 25% better than what the average player is. If he has a 75% weighted runs created plus, that means he's 25% less than the average player. And basically what it's trying to do, I'm not going to go read through the whole formula and bore people. But what it's trying to do is get the overall value of how many runs a player is creating offensively. By it weighs walks. Like I believe it weighs walks about like 70% as valuable as a single, just to put it into some context. And then obviously it values home runs much more valuable than a single. And it does all that stuff. And then it also even factors in what park you play in. So guys at Great American Ballpark get punished for playing at Great American Ballpark. And guys that play at maybe the park the Reds are going to tomorrow down in Miami, you get a little bit of a boost. And that helps normalize the stats for guys playing at different parks. So, Shea, you got anything to add to that? Did I butcher it, or is that
no?
the
I think you did.
synopsis?
I think you did. To my understanding, I think you nailed it. I mean, 100 is a smack dab average baseball player. The more you are over that, the better, the higher you are compared to the average player, and vice versa. The lower your number is, the lower you are compared to an average player. So, for example, really elite hitters, I believe Matt Chapman's sitting at like a 170 something right now because he's just off to an unconscious start. And then there will be guys that have, a 50, 60, and those are the guys that are probably going to get replaced. So at the end of the day, I think you nailed it. It's basically looking at that 100 as a middle ground, and then basing off of where guys are based off of that middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's weighted runs created plus. Well, let's look at what is coming up next for your. Well, sorry. Hold the phone one bit. Let's look at the Reds minor leagues. Everyone plays tonight. Louisville plays at 6:35. A lot of pitchers tonight for the Reds in their minor league system that are guys that have been disappointments so far. So maybe a prove it night for Reds minor league baseball. But Louisville, they take on Columbus at 6:35. Brandon Williamson is on the mound. And this will be a good test for the bats. They're going against Hunter Gaddis, who is a pitcher that has pitched in the major leagues this year for the Guardians, one of their higher ranked pitching prospects. So this will be a good challenge. That article Nick Kroll mentioned in The Athletic about how they're not seeing major league pitching. Well, this is a guy that might be a good guy to evaluate, just like the prospect that they faced yesterday. So that's 6:35. Definitely will be checking that out. Double-A Chattanooga, they play at 7:35 against Mississippi. Christian Roa, he was the Reds' second-round pick back in 2020. He struggled. He has an 8.31 ERA this year. Has a really good swing and miss, but just unfortunately walks a lot of guys. So he's interesting to watch as well. Definitely got some upside, but he's got to start figuring out. And then Dayton, they take on Peoria at 7:35. Another good pitching prospect for the Reds, Javi Rivera. He's a much younger. He will be going. And then Daytona takes on St. Lucie at 6:35. But let's get into who the Reds have next. And then if you're listening to this in podcast form, tomorrow morning I'll run through. I'll record a little something about what all the Reds minor league players and prospects and what the results were in the podcast version tomorrow. But Reds, they take on the Marlins starting tomorrow for a 3-game series in Miami. Graham Ashcraft will be on the mound for the Reds, looking to recover from probably his worst start of his big league career. He'd been just incredible up until his last start where he just got hit really, really hard. Looking to bounce back. And the Reds are going up against a pitcher that I know Shea is really excited to see what he could do. Shea, tell us about this guy for the Marlins.
I'm excited to see him pitch. I'm not excited to see him pitch against the Reds, Nick. Yuri Perez, the number 10 prospect in all of baseball. He just turned 20 years old last month. He's huge, 6'8", 220 pounds. A very similar kind of mix to Sandy Alcantara, that sinker, curveball, slider, changeup kind of vibe. His fastball is harder than Sandy Alcantara's. He tops out at about 102. He'll throw about 97, 98 consistently. His changeup is really good. His slider and curveball need some work. He's got pretty good command for a guy that just turned 20 years old. He walks some guys, but he doesn't walk as many as you'd think a 20-year-old would do at that age. So he's, in my opinion, is the number 10 prospect in all of baseball. But in my opinion, he's right up there with Painter of the Phillies and Rodriguez of the Orioles for the best right-handed pitching prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the series against the Marlins. They're a young team as well, like the Reds. They've been inconsistent this year, but they are sitting at 19-19. They are off today. They just took 2 of 3 in Arizona. They won the final game of a series before that in Chicago, but they had lost 5 straight. And then right before that, they won 4 straight. And then right before that, they lost 4 straight. So they've been a team that's really been kind of up and down. But overall, I mean, 19-19. Having a pretty good year for a team being so young. So it'll be interesting to see what the Reds can do. And Shea, I think this ballpark is a better suited ballpark for the Reds lineup than their own home ballpark because the Reds aren't hitting home runs. This is a park that's really hard to hit home runs, but there's a lot more space. So, the Reds do have a lot of guys that are unfortunately singles, maybe doubles hitters. And the Reds do have some speed. It'd be interesting to see how they can play in this ballpark because I do think it suits their current lineup a lot better.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a ballpark where you can get some doubles and triples in the gap. One of their best guys at getting those doubles and triples is TJ Friedel, so we'll see if he's available this weekend. But I think it definitely, they're going to have to take a similar approach that they took today, and they're going to have good at-bats. They're going to have to be sitting on the fastball because they're facing Yuri Perez tomorrow and Sandy Alcantara on Saturday, 2 guys that throw upper 90s, low 100s. So they're going to have to sit heat and lay off some of those tough breaking pitches. But if they can wait for their pitch and put it in play, I think they've got a good shot to score some runs.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to this. Well, Shea, you are the man. I really appreciate you coming on these last 3 days, helping us out. You just have such great insight. Great Reds fan all the way out in Kansas.
Well, it's easy to not want to be a Royals fan, Nick. They're not very good.
Yeah, I got them on right now. I got them on right now. They're in a 1-1 game. I may have put a little coin on that game. I might have an interest in that.
They have won 3 of their last 4, so maybe they're heating up.
I didn't say I put it on the Royals, but
that's true.
Sorry, Shea. Shea, before we get out of here, tell the folks where they can find you and keep up with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The Twitter handle is just below my name here in the chat at KGGF Shea Neal. Over there, have a lot of fun. Still talk. I'm a Reds and Bengals fan. I always will be. So I still talk plenty of Reds and Bengals. And I do cover Chiefs, Royals, KU, K-State, all that kind of stuff out here. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can head to kggfradio.com. It's also it's in the bio of my Twitter and see all the content that we do there. We do about 4 or 5 different sports stories a day. So it's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, Shea, you're the man. Really appreciate it. And everyone, like the stream if you're watching.
The Royals are better
YouTube.
than the A's, to the people in the chat. I'm sorry. The Royals are better than the A's.
Yeah. Suck it, chat. but before you suck it, chat, hit like on the stream. That stuff really helps us out. Make sure you're subscribed to Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Turn on notifications so you always know whenever we go live. We appreciate everyone who joins us every night. It's been awesome. And brighter days are coming for the Reds, and I can't wait till this team's 20 games over 500 for one of these post-game shows. That's going to be lit, as the kids say. And then, of course, as always, check out Chatterbox Reds everywhere you get podcasts. Like I said, I'll record a little bit about what's going on in the minor leagues after that action's done, and it'll be in your feed, as is every single morning after a Reds game when you wake up, always there for your commute. You never have to worry about it. If you miss the game, I'll tell you what happened, and we'll have some fun along the way. Well, appreciate everyone joining us. Appreciate Shea. We will see you tomorrow night around 9:10 on YouTube. Go Reds.